Hey everybody, so for anyone who missed it, Ben Shapiro debated Cenk from the Young Turks. It was pretty great to see Cenk lose hard, but there's only a few specific moments I wanted to bring up. It's always very telling about any big government-minded person when this occurs. The financial crash was brought up, and the only thing Cenk could mention on the topic was Glass-Steagall and the banks gambling with people's money. It shouldn't have escaped anyone's attention that Cenk never brought up the Federal Reserve, the Community Reinvestment Act, or the government guaranteeing loans. If you're going to blame the free market on something like the crash of '08, you cannot ignore the severe market distortions that were introduced into the situation by the government. If the Federal Reserve isn't within the first few sentences of your take on the crash, then I immediately know where you stand. It should be obvious that Cenk doesn't know what he's talking about. Government was the root cause of the speculation and the ever-increasing prices, and the low-income people receiving loans for houses they'd never be able to pay back. Government tells banks for years not to worry about mortgages that will likely end in default. As long as they're giving them to low-income people, the government gets to strut around and take the credit. But when it all backfires and people can't keep up with their payments, so everyone begins selling and prices plummet, and home equity becomes a ghost, government is nowhere to be found. The other point I'd like to bring up is the shoes versus healthcare aspect. At one point, Cenk says, yes, capitalism is great for shoes, but not healthcare. Shapiro should have immediately asked Cenk why capitalism was great for shoes. Why have shoes become something we barely think about? Why are they something we simply take for granted? Why are they so plentiful you can find them in garbage cans and no one cares to fish them out? It was a question Cenk would have either been not able to answer, or if he did answer it, it would have made him look very foolish. Also, it doesn't necessarily have to be shoes, it could be almost anything. Shoes, curtains, headphones, keyboards, guitars, Ethernet cables, speakers, dehumidifiers, space heaters, the list is nearly endless. Why would Cenk admit capitalism is great for those types of things and not healthcare? Could it be because if you have a top-heavy, centrally commanded institution dictating where resources should be allocated in these ventures, that you would soon find that all of the products we take for granted would soon become scarce and expensive or decrease in quality? In fact, the most intelligent thing Cenk said all night was his little attempt at humor pertaining to capitalism being great for shoes but not healthcare. He seems to live in a fantasy world where healthcare products and services aren't subject to the same economic principles as everything else in our lives. Anyway, the debate was about an hour long. It was great to see Cenk get exposed, then crushed. I suggest watching it, and that's all for now. Later on.